Team Fortress 2 Gold Rush is a source mod, a new source mod, with the goal of, quote, restoring the original atmosphere present in the old builds of Team Fortress 2 by reverting changes that were made over the course of the game's life. Now, the idea of a mod that rolls back changes made by Valve has existed for nearly a decade now, but Gold Rush marks the first time that such a mod is not only realized but also published to Steam. Being the first of its kind, the TF2 community had high expectations for what kind of mod Gold Rush would be, and upon release, the mod didn't just fail to meet expectations, it subverted them entirely. By not meeting player expectations and by misleading those who had no expectations to begin with, Gold Rush had shot itself in the foot on release, and it's been slowly bleeding out ever since. The most misleading aspect of Gold Rush is in its name. The subtitle of Gold Rush plants certain expectations in the minds of those who know where the name comes from, the Gold Rush update of 2008. Upon hearing the name of a 2008 update, one might imagine a game where Pyro has no air blast, Engineer has no way to move buildings, and the only unlockable weapons are for Medic. And those who understandably expect a mod named Gold Rush to emulate the Gold Rush update had their expectations crushed when it was revealed that Gold Rush is not too different from vanilla TF2, minus all the things that the developers personally don't like. This decision made by the developers to stick with a name that is not at all representative of the mod's goals is just one of the many blunders that led to the declining player base. A mechanic that most TF2 players take for granted, auto-reload is not enabled by default in Gold Rush. Much to the surprise of everyone who played the mod on day one, auto-reload isn't even a feature that is supported by the developers. This seemingly innocuous change is, to this day, the single most controversial feature of Gold Rush, and the one that drove away a majority of early players. A mechanic that had never been controversial before had now become the most debated feature in the mod, all because one person planted his flag in the ground and decided that auto-reload is a bad thing, actually. The most baffling part of this decision is that auto-reload and reload canceling were introduced in the classless update of 2009, placing it comfortably in the era that Gold Rush is attempting to emulate. And despite the massive number of players who were turned off immediately by the lack of auto-reload, the developers vehemently refuse to concede and will tout the removal of auto-reload as a feature. The fans of Gold Rush absolutely ran with this idea, thus starting the gatekeeping campaign, which declares that manual reload is simply a more cerebral way to play, and anyone who disagrees is just a tourist who must be gatekept. The Gold Rush community loves to throw around the word gatekept when it comes time to defend a source mod that's only been around for about a month. What's that? You don't like that you don't have the option of automatic reload? You're being gatekept. Don't like the arbitrary omission of content? Gatekept. These same people had never even had an opinion on reloading before until someone else gave their take on the matter, then suddenly they act like they're an expert. This kind of sheep behavior shows that Gold Rush fans are just incapable of independent thought and will defend the mod just to feel like they're part of a secret club. And it isn't just the players who share this sentiment, but the developers themselves as well. One Youper, an admin in the Gold Rush Discord, personally had me banned simply for giving my opinion on auto-reload. The idea that manual and automatic reload can both exist and be a matter of personal preference is heresy to them, and they refuse to hear it. Other examples of contemporary content being omitted from the mod are the Gunslinger, Islander, Pyro's Beanie, Double Cross, and Junction. Gold Rush is meant to be a mod about separating the content that is consistent with TF2's art style from the immersion-breaking slop like the promotional hats. But the developer's standards for items and cosmetics are so high that it just comes off as nitpicking. The official reason as to why the Gunslinger doesn't belong in Gold Rush, and this comes straight from the admins in the Gold Rush Discord, are that it changes Engineer's character from folksy Texan, citation needed, to mad scientist who replaces his own limbs with robot parts, in that it also alters his gameplay from backline support to frontline brawler. The whole point of weapon unlocks is that they change the way a class is played, and even other characters in the mod are allowed to have gameplay defining unlocks, such as the Huntsman for Sniper. The argument as to why the Engineer can't have the Gunslinger is flimsy at best. As stated on their website, the goal of Gold Rush is not to reinvent TF2, but I would argue that's exactly what they're doing. They also state that there will be no cut content restorations, and yet Scout has blue pants. Inconsistency seems to be the main theme of Gold Rush, when the developers forbid era-appropriate mechanics and items from existing, but then allow features from years after the stated cutoff date of 2010. For example, the flamethrower uses post-Jungle Inferno mechanics. In the advanced options menu, minimized view models are there, which was added in Meet Your Match. There are also severe issues with crashing that, at the time of writing, have not been fixed. Now, to the developers' credit, they have recently released a patch which includes a fix for the VGUI crashes, but my game is still being affected. The mod developers haven't opened a crash report thread on the Steam community forums or released a list of possible fixes. Now, they do have a crash report channel on their Discord, but I'm banned from it, so I guess my problem is never going to be fixed. I think if the mod developers spent less time arguing with strangers on Discord and more time developing, this issue might have been fixed by now. Post-launch support also hasn't been great. I know Zesty Jesus doesn't work for the mod, but he promoted Gold Rush for months prior to the Steam release, only to stream it for about 2.5 hours, and then not even host a server for the mod. Richter Overtime streamed Gold Rush once on the release day, but then never promoted it again afterwards, despite being a community leader of sorts. The mod developers themselves ban anyone who gives them feedback, and the Gold Rush community shuns anyone who wants the mod to be successful in the name of gatekeeping. I wanted the mod to be successful. I wanted to like it. You know, it wasn't perfect on launch, but I felt that those issues could be addressed, could be changed, and then we'd have a great product. But I guess the developers figured that their mod was perfect on launch. Flawless. Nothing needs to change. Okay, off script. I genuinely think the Gold Rush devs think that they know better than the TF team, you know? When auto reload was added to the game, I feel like the Gold Rush devs looked at that and thought it was just laziness, right? Like they were too lazy to prevent people from using reload scripts, so they just gave everybody auto reload to level the playing field.